Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Tuesday. We are now officially well and truly into the World Cup break. England flying off today, so good luck to Bukayo Saka, Aaron Ramsdale and Ben White, of course, and lots of other players already making their way around the world to join up with their national team. So we're certainly going to have plenty of Arsenal players to keep an eye on during Qatar. Also going to have plenty of Arsenal to keep an eye on during the World Cup break, not in Qatar, but in Dubai, and I'll speak about that a little bit later in this video. Obviously, I mentioned it yesterday during the video I recorded, talking about the preparations that Arsenal are going to be going through ahead of the return of the Premier League, and there has now been confirmation of the Dubai Super Cup, which sounds very, very interesting. So I'll speak about that a little bit later on in this video. But I wanted to start talking about the interview that Mudryk gave yesterday. If you haven't seen it already, he gave an interview to Zinchenko's wife, who is a very big sports presenter, media personality over in Ukraine, and she sat down with, I was about to say, the Arsenal target, Mykhailo Mudryk then. And I suppose he is. I mean, Arsenal are interested in him, no doubt about that. He's a player that they're keeping they're looking at. I know there was talk in the summer that Arsenal would actually bid for him. I don't think that was true. But there was certainly plenty of talk that Arsenal had actually lodged an official offer. I'm not sure that was quite the case, but certainly a player that they are looking at, and he's definitely a player that is going to generate lots of headlines as we head towards January, especially if he keeps talking the way he did in this video, because I don't know if you described it as a come and get me plea, but it was certainly someone waving a flag in the air saying, look, somebody please sign me in January. Plays for Shakhtar Donetsk at the moment. Obviously, he had a fantastic Champions League campaign. Really good season this season for Shakhtar so far. I think he's scored eight assists as well. He was great in the Champions League. Scored some really eye-catching goals, put in some really decent performances, and definitely wants to go this January. He says it himself in that interview with Zinchenko's wife. And he talked about it. He wanted to go in the summer as well. He very nearly went to Brentford. Brentford had bid for him. Other clubs bid for him. Shakhtar eventually said, no, we're going to keep hold of you. Quite how much it's going to cost to get him out of Shakhtar in January, it remains to be seen. They are playing, certainly publicly, they're playing pretty hardball when it comes to potential fees. I think the bid that Brentford sort of bid for him in the summer was about 30 million, and definitely going to cost a lot more than that to get him. I think you're probably looking at around 60. I don't know. That's just me guessing. There's no information based on that at all. But anyway, this is what he's been talking about during the interview with Zinchenko's wife. He said, I check on Arsenal in my score, and I know when they're playing, so I can check on them. I also watch them too. Arsenal are a very dynamic side in general, not just in controlling possession, but also in scoring goals. He was then asked about, because loads of other teams have been linked with him, Real Madrid for one, that sort of things. He said, from a purely theoretical fantasy perspective, if there was an option of being a bench player for Real Madrid or a starter for Arsenal, I'd probably choose Arsenal. But it's a tough question that involves a lot of factors. I first would like to know from the head coach that even if I wasn't a guaranteed starter, that I'd receive a chance. Essentially, I need to hear directly from the manager what he envisages my role in this side. So they're very much laying out his what he wants, Mudryk, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this progresses during January. It's the whole way that Arsenal are going to approach January. I'm really intrigued by it. It's like, what do you do? Do you really push the boat out now and take advantage of the start you've had, or do you stick to the plan you probably had heading into January, which was maybe do something but wait until the summer and go again? Arsenal are going to have to decide if they're going to stick or twist. And personally, for me, I'd absolutely say twist. But I'm obviously going to say that. Whether football club directors and people who control the money, they've probably got to have a different view. But it feels to me, when you've put yourself in this position to really, yes, go for the title, because we have to say they're 5 points clear at the top of the table. You've got to go for the title from this point, but certainly as well, try and take full advantage and making sure you get yourself back in the Champions League. If that involves, if you can buy 2-3 players in January, if you can push the boat out a little bit more, spend a little bit more money than perhaps you wanted to, then surely this is the time to do it. And Mudryk, he ticks a lot of boxes. He plays out wide. Admittedly, he plays more on the left-hand side, and you kind of feel that Arsenal need more of a right-hand side winger, the backup competition for Saka, rather than, Martinelli, you think, is just a nailed-down starter at the moment. And Mudryk very much likes to play on the left-hand side. But that doesn't say he can't play on the right. So, but he's such an exciting player. I remember seeing him the first time I ever saw him play. I flicked on TV during Champions League a couple of seasons ago, and it was Shakhtar versus Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and I watched it, and I'd never heard of him, never seen him before, and I just saw this blonde-haired kid get on the ball and just run at Madrid, his low centre of gravity, how difficult he was to dispossess, his speed of which he can dribble. And I just thought, who is this player? And I remember searching on Google, I had to type in like Shakhtar Donetsk number 17 or whatever it was, and it came up with his name, and I was like, wow, that is he looks one hell of a talent. And then I've followed him since then, and every time you see him play, you just think you are a serious footballer. And it'd be a really, really exciting signing if Arsenal did push the boat out. He obviously very much likes the idea of Arsenal. He talks a little bit more about, so there's some more of this interviews to come. This is what he had to say when he was asked about Arsenal and what the fans have been saying to him on social media, that sort of thing. Here's what he had to say. He says, one surprise for me was how many Arsenal fans followed me. No other club's fans have interacted as much as they have, telling me they are waiting for me, saying, come to us. One of my recent posts has about 500 comments saying that. Yeah, this is Arsenal social media for you. I think all players, when they get linked to Arsenal, have to go through all that stuff. Zinchenko's wife then asked, does the prospect of playing on the same wing with Zina, it's obviously Zinchenko, playing with another Ukrainian, does that encourage you? Mudryk said, yes, it does. And then she asked, will you be upset if you don't get a move in the winter? And he said, yes. Now, he very much wants to move. He said that before. It's an open secret. He wanted to move in the summer. It didn't happen. He stayed. He was disappointed by that. But now, Shakhtar are out of the Champions League. He wants to get his move this January. And it just feels, it's going to be difficult to sign players in January. It always is. But this January feels a little bit different. If there's a player of that quality on the market in a position which you kind of need to strengthen, I don't know, for me it feels like a bit of a no-brainer. He would be one element exciting signing. He ticks the boxes in terms of the age profile. He's got experience of Champions League football. He's shown he can do it in Champions League at Champions League level and do it very, very well against the best teams. Yeah, for me it feels like a little bit of a no-brainer. But let me know what you guys think. Is Mudryk a sort of signing that you would want at Arsenal? Can he come in and make the difference and be the sort of player that could potentially get him over the line in the race for the title? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Okay, so yesterday's video, I spent a lot of time talking about what Arsenal's plans were for during the World Cup, and I mentioned about their break in Dubai and the tournament they're going to be playing in against Lyon, AC Milan, and Liverpool also involved, but Arsenal aren't playing Liverpool, but they're the fourth team involved. That has now been confirmed over in Dubai. There's a press conference this morning sort of launching it. It is called the Dubai Super Cup. It is going to be played over the course of about a week in December. Arsenal will play Lyon first, as I said yesterday, on December the 8th. They'll then play AC Milan on December the 13th. They will not play Liverpool. So it's four teams competing, but each team plays two other teams. So the English clubs don't play each other. Like I said, Lyon on the 8th, Milan on the 13th. Alexandre Lacazette, no doubt, coming up against Arsenal for Lyon in that game. Some interesting rules for it. It's 3 points for a win as normal. It's 2 points for a draw. And at the end of each game, no matter what the result is, there is going to be a penalty shootout. And the winner of that penalty shootout will get an extra point. So, yeah, a little bit interesting sort of rules there. Certainly adds a little bit more excitement to the end of a game. And yeah, so that's one to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see how Arsenal get on in that. It's a tournament that is going to give some players the opportunity to impress. Some of the players who aren't over in the World Cup, and a much needed sort of warm up ahead of the Premier League's return on December the 26th. Mikel Arteta has been speaking about it, and this is what he had to say. First about the training camp, and then about the sort of pre-season Arsenal are going to have to go through in Dubai. About the training camp, he said the weather is spectacular in Dubai, and then the World Cup is so close, so for any player that is around there, it is easy for them to get back straight away. I think it ticks all the boxes that we need. We need good preparation mentally and physically to be ready for the huge demands that the second part of the season is going to bring to this team. We have two great games against Lyon and Milan, and we are really looking forward to it. They are two big clubs, and it'll be tough competition, and for us it's a great test to see where we are. Arsenal will be in Dubai for about 10 days, I think it is, and they'll fly home straight after that AC Milan game on the 13th, due to arrive back in the UK on the 14th. And like I said, they will then have a friendly at the Emirates, although that hasn't yet been confirmed, but the plan is for the friendly at the Emirates on Saturday, December the 17th. So Mikel, he also talked about what this is going to be like for Arsenal, because it is different. We've never had this before. World Cup in the middle of the season. Obviously, the pre-season normally is in summer. Now we've got a second, almost condensed mini pre-season, not with everyone, but with some players coming back later on. And he said, we've got a pre-season, not a full one, but a really good 3 weeks of preparation. We're going to have to get the team ready in different phases, because we're going to have certain players at the start, some players in the middle, and certain players at the end of it in relation to what happens at the World Cup. It's not really different to any summer when there is a European competition or a World Cup. You start pre-season, and in the first 3 weeks there are 6, 7, sometimes 10 players that are not participating because they have played competitions with their national teams, and here it's going to be the same. The thing is, after the World Cup to the first competitive match, that turnaround is really, really short. And he's not wrong there. Like I said, it's Boxing Day, first game for Arsenal. And depending on when players return to the squad, then some of them are not going to have much preparation time whatsoever. And you think if you go all the way to the final as well, which I can't remember what the date is of the final, it's like the 20th, 21st, something like that. You know, those teams, whoever wins it, say Brazil win it and Arsenal got Jesus and Martinelli, say England win it and they got 3 other players. You then come back and you would think you have to fly back to whatever your country is, because you have to celebrate, don't you? There's normally a bus parade, parade through the streets, that sort of thing. And that's going to take even more time out of the players getting back ahead of that game against West Ham on Boxing Day. So, yeah, it's going to be a really difficult one for Arsenal to manage. It's one they're going to hopefully manage very, very well. They've at least had a lot of time to plan for this. Mikel said every player and every schedule is different. We'll have to assess who it is, how many games he's played, how many days off they've had in the last few months, and treat it like this. But certainly there is a plan in place for every player. So, as I said there, I think they've had a lot of time to plan with this, with sports science, with the doctors, with the data analysts, everything like that. And getting it right is going to be so key, because you just can't afford to have to slowly build up again once the season starts. You've got to go straight back in it. Arsenal are 5 points clear at the top of the table. You've got to take advantage of that. You can't spend 3 weeks when you get back sort of warming up again, and you just suddenly you do that, you click fingers, you lost 2 games, you haven't even taken any notice, and then Arsenal go into January and you've got Tottenham, Manchester United coming up as well. So you've got to hit the ground running. You've got to make sure every player is ready to go when they get back from the World Cup, and it's going to be, whoever manages this best is going to have a huge advantage when it comes to the second half of the season. Because if you get it wrong, and some clubs will, I'm sure they will, then suddenly, within a blink of an eye, you've played about 8 games and you're still not up to speed and you've lost a hell of a lot of points. So it's going to be really, really important. And going to be interesting to see exactly how Arsenal manage it. But I really like the fact they're playing some competitive games out in Dubai, and then they're going to have that friendly as well. It's just the players who aren't going, it's going to ensure they are still playing competitive football, and that is really, really important during this break. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do anything you've disagreed with, agreed with, anything you want to say, let me know in the comments below. Always appreciate your responses. Thanks as always for the support on this channel, and have a very good day, and I'll speak to you soon.